What's up, everybody? In this video, I'll be talking about my experience with Madden 27. I've been playing it for a few hours in early access, and I just wanted to share my thoughts so that you guys know whether or not it's worth it to buy the game when it comes out on Thursday. And in the background here is not Madden 27, it's Madden 26 because you can't live stream Madden 27, but that's okay. You can watch my epic Madden 26 franchise gameplay. And this is going to be strictly about franchise mode because I don't play Ultimate Team anymore. I've been playing Madden games since Madden 11, so 15 years have gone by since my first Madden game. And over time, I did play Ultimate Team a lot back in like Madden 18 through 21. I was very big into Ultimate Team, but I just don't play it anymore after Madden 21 because honestly, it just feels like a chore. And I have other stuff going on in my life to take care of besides grinding out challenges in Ultimate Team and building my team and whatever. But it's also a very pay to win mode now, and I don't like playing it, and I don't like playing online either because the player base is very toxic and I can't handle it anymore. So I stick to franchise mode mostly, and that's what this video is going to be about, just franchise mode. But in Madden 26, franchise mode was way too simple and way too easy. The game itself was way too easy. Since I've been playing for like 15 years, I know the ins and outs of the game, and all Madden was just way too easy of a difficulty for me. And you can change up the sliders and whatever to try to make it harder, but no matter what I did, it really didn't change much. Um, but yeah, franchise mode definitely needed an upgrade. Even if you're like a really bad team like the Jets, you can turn the Jets into a dynasty in 2 years if you know what you're doing, how to manipulate the trades, manipulate the draft, and whatnot. And it very, very badly needed an upgrade. And Madden 27, I will say, I think that they did a good job of upgrading franchise mode because it desperately needed an upgrade. Desperately. But there are a lot of problems with it that I'm sure that they will kink out at some point, but there's a lot of issues with franchise mode at this point, right? And with all the new things that they added, that's to be expected, but they're not going to fix them by the time the game comes out officially. If you buy the game when it comes out, it's going to be very glitchy. It's not going to look great. And just know that there's going to be some tweaks that happen eventually. I'm hoping that those get fixed sometime in the first couple months of the game being out, but I guess we'll have to see. But I'll start off with things that I like about Madden 27. The biggest thing, probably, that they added is the catch meter. When you go to make a catch, you can try to catch it like they shoot in 2K with a meter that you have to green to make a perfect catch or whatever. And honestly, I like it, right? And they've tried to do the same thing in the past with the passing mechanic. And I personally don't have that turned on. I know a lot of people like that passing mechanic. I really hate it. I just have classic passing on and I have forever because I personally don't find a competitive advantage to using it. It only hurts me, and I don't see a difference in the gameplay with that mechanic turned on, except when it goes bad. Classic passing is just fine for the game, but this catch meter, I really do think that you can get a competitive advantage with this mechanic if you're good at it, right? And it's going to take some getting used to. I'm not completely used to it yet. I've been dropping checkdowns, but also I've been catching some crazy passes that I wouldn't have caught otherwise because of this mechanic. And it's really fun, I think. It adds another layer of difficulty to the game that it really needs, right? And I've learned using this mechanic that if you're wide open on a check down, you don't have to use it. Your player will catch the ball if you just don't press a button. But there are situations where you do have to make a rack catch or an aggressive catch or a possession catch where you will have to use that minigame. But on checkdowns, you don't have to, which is great. But overall, I think the catch meter is really fun, and I think it adds a level of difficulty to the game that we needed. And if you're really good at it, you can get competitive advantage, which is great. But also, another thing that I like, they have new celebrations. Really small thing. But we've had the same celebration animations, it feels like, for half a decade now. And they added some new ones. I'll let you guys check those out for yourself, be surprised by those, but I really like them. I think they're really creative. Anyway, but the biggest thing that I'm excited about for this game is the free agency. The free agency frenzy is a new thing that they added in franchise mode where like you can sim by the hour and talk to the players and negotiate the contracts. And it's a much more interactive experience than it was before than just a list of players and then you give them an offer and then they either like it or they don't. But now it adds a level of interactivity to the game and realism that we desperately needed in this game, and that happens in the regular free agency period and after the draft with undrafted free agents. And I think that that works perfectly, and I love it. It's something this game has needed for a long time, and I'm glad that they added it. But similarly to that, player conversations have been added where you, as a coach, can talk to the player about retirement, about negotiating a new contract, about restructuring a contract, and some other things that are related to morale, etc. Again, it's just more realism, more interactivity to the game, more stuff to do. Because, I mean, that's just really what we needed in franchise mode. Because you can trade, you can sign free agents, you can play the game. That's all franchise mode was in Madden 26. There's plenty more to do in Madden 27 franchise mode. And that's what I like. There's also some new like visual stuff, like the ticker at the bottom that shows scores and stats from games around the league, and breaking news if there's a player that signed a big contract with the team or a trade or something, etc. I think that's a really cool addition. And like I said earlier about Madden 26 franchise mode, it was way too easy to manipulate trades and the draft. And I feel like they fixed that a little bit. I think the value for draft picks has changed drastically. Like in Madden 26, I could trade a 90 overall safety for 3 first round picks. That would never happen in real life. I feel like the value of a first round pick is much more realistic in this game. And some other things. The QB sneak mechanic is interesting. For me, it's kind of hard and it doesn't work most of the time. But in gameplay, QB sneak would work almost every single time. And I'm glad that they have something in there to make it harder to do a QB sneak. There's some skill involved there. But for me, it doesn't work most of the time, which is fine because it's a cheesy play anyway. And honestly, it shouldn't be allowed in real life football either. But that's neither here nor there. Another thing about the gameplay, the offensive line, I've noticed, is much worse. I've been getting a lot more pressure in the backfield much quicker. And I think that I like that. It makes the game harder and it's more realistic. In Madden 26, I'd often have very long pockets because the offensive line was just holding the defensive line back. And that makes the game harder. And I think that's what we needed. Maybe this is all in my head, but I think the game is harder. Maybe my opinion on that will change in like a month when I get used to all the new mechanics and stuff, but we'll have to see. So that's all the things that I like about Madden 27. And there's a lot of things that I don't like about Madden 27, so I'll get into that real quick. I was talking about how I loved the player conversations and how it added some interactivity to the game. Well, sometimes they just don't work. Specifically for the retirement conversations, there was a couple of players actually, that were talking about retiring. And you have to talk them out of retirement or whatever. And I go to do that, and it's just blank. They say nothing. Like it pops up quotation marks and it's just blank. And then that just goes on loop and you can't talk to them. And then they retire anyway. So I'm like, okay, so what was that even about? So sometimes the player conversations just don't work. And then I was talking about the breaking news and the ticker and how I like that. Sometimes that doesn't work either. Sometimes it's incorrect. Sometimes when you restructure a contract, it'll act like it's a brand new contract. So you restructure a player on a 4-year contract. It'll say in the breaking news section that you signed them to a brand new 4-year deal. And that's just annoying because that didn't happen and it's not right. So they're going to have to buff that out too. And another thing, I imported a draft class that was made by some person. I don't remember who it was, but it was the most popular draft class in the game. When those players were drafted and you see them in game on the field, they all had a basic player model with no gear, no nothing. They all had the same face and they were all number 11. And that's a glitch that has happened in past Maddens, but it's happening again in this game. And I'm not sure why it does that, but it's just very annoying because I'm not going to go through each drafted player and change their face and their gear and their number. It's just not going to happen. It's just very annoying. Other things in the game that don't work, and this has been consistent for as long as I remember in Madden's, bunch of visual errors. For example, specifically when like a graphic shows up showing quarterback statistics. If a quarterback is 16 of 23 passing, it'll show up in the graphic as 16 23 instead of 16 23. And it's just ugly, it's annoying, and it's a basic coding mistake. Like, I don't understand how that could be an oversight because it happens, like, that graphic shows up in damn near every single game that you play. So I don't know how someone couldn't have seen that and been like, oh, we made a coding error here, because I cannot imagine that that is a huge coding error. But just stuff like that. There's plenty of other stuff like that that's happened in other Maddens that's just annoying and looks terrible. But yeah. In terms of gameplay, screen passes, specifically halfback screen passes, don't work anymore. In Madden 26, if you threw a screen pass, it's basically a guaranteed first down every time unless they run man. But now I haven't run a halfback screen that has gotten over 3 yards, and probably 80% of the time it gets stuffed by a defensive tackle for a loss of yardage. And it just, I don't think that the screen passes are programmed in a way that work anymore. And that's just annoying because there's situations where a screen pass is the right play to call and it just doesn't work anymore, which is great. Also, whip routes just don't work anymore. Even the best receivers. I've had Jamar Chase run whip routes that look like Big X the plug running them. And it just doesn't make sense because I've seen Jamar Chase run a whip route and it does not take 4 seconds for an NFL wide receiver to break off of a whip route. It just doesn't. It's so slow. And for other routes too, it's just so slow. And it just doesn't make any sense and it looks terrible. And another thing, in terms of just franchise mode in general, the salary cap is inaccurate, very inaccurate. They added a bunch of new contract language like void years, guaranteed years, etc. And it's just not coded correctly. I've seen a bunch of people on Twitter talking about this, how players' cap designations in real life do not match up in game. And that leads to it being very hard to trade or sign players after year one in franchise mode because the cap just doesn't line up and you have much higher cap hits than you get in real life. And that's just annoying. So they're going to have to fix that. Overall, there's just a lot of things for them to fix about this game. Do I think that all of them will get fixed? No, I really don't. There's just some things that we're going to have to live with in terms of the game just not being very good in some areas. But overall, I really like what they did with franchise mode. And if they can fix some of these things, I think that it'll be really cool. Specifically, the catch meter and the free agency are things that I really love. And the fact that the trade value has been fixed to an extent. But overall, if they can buff these things out, I think that this could be a really good game. And I do think that it's worth it to buy it just for franchise mode because it's much more interactive than before. And I think that it's a much better game than before. And I think that it's a much harder game than before. And I think that's something that I like because I've been saying for a long time that this game has been too easy. So, overall, yes, I do think that this game is worth it. Just give it some time and hopefully they'll buff everything out. But game comes out on Thursday. Excited to play it some more, and I'll see you in the next one.